Since assuming office in 2000, Vladimir Putin has frequently mentioned the notion of the Russian world. This concept suggests that Russia's influence reaches beyond its present boundaries. Putin considers the dissolution of the Soviet Union as the most significant geopolitical event of the 20th century. While he acknowledges the near impossibility of reuniting the 15 former Soviet countries, his recent military actions indicate a clear desire to restore some of the power and prestige associated with the Russian-led Soviet Union. The primary approach Putin seems to be taking to reclaim former Soviet territories involves invasion or annexation. A clear example of this was the illegal annexation of Crimea from Ukraine. Additionally, Putin has supported separatist movements in regions like Donetsk in Ukraine, as well as in various areas of Georgia and Moldova. However, recent developments suggest that Putin's aspirations go beyond these actions. In early 2023, a leaked 17-page document from Putin's presidential administration outlined a comprehensive strategy aiming to gain control of Belarus and annex the country by the year 2030. Belarus, with its approximately 10 million inhabitants, stands as the last European ally for Vladimir Putin's Russia. Despite this alliance, the question arises, why would Putin consider annexing Belarus, especially given its status as a crucial ally? The significance of Belarus becomes apparent when examining its role in the invasion of Ukraine. President Alexander Lukashenko allowed Russian troops to be stationed on Belarusian soil months before the Ukraine invasion commenced. It was from Belarus that the Russian military operation against Ukraine was initiated. Furthermore, Belarus provided crucial support by allowing the use of its military arsenal, railroads, and roads for the Russian army. Lukashenko even went so far as to threaten war against Russia if Belarus faced an attack. Considering this level of support, the question arises, why does Putin contemplate the drastic step of annexing Belarus, especially when it is seemingly a loyal ally? Unraveling Putin's plan and motivations behind annexing Belarus requires a closer examination of the broader geopolitical context and the potential strategic advantages he envisions in securing Belarus under Russian control. One potential reason behind Putin's interest in annexing Belarus is the strategic consideration for the post-Lukashenko era. With Lukashenko at 68 years old and rumors surfacing about his health, the prospect of a leadership change is imminent. Even if Lukashenko's rule doesn't end due to health concerns, the fact remains that, at some point, his governance will conclude. This poses a unique challenge for Putin, as Belarus, unlike Russia, harbors a robust opposition eager to reclaim the country after Lukashenko's 29-year rule. If Putin doesn't annex Belarus before a leadership transition, there's a substantial risk that the opposition could seize power. This scenario would present a significant obstacle to Putin's ambitions, as a new government in Belarus might resist Russian influence. This resistance could jeopardize the guarantees Putin currently enjoys regarding the presence of Russian troops on Belarusian soil. Consequently, Putin may see annexation as a preemptive measure to secure long-term control over Belarus, ensuring that the post-Lukashenko era aligns with his geopolitical objectives of expanding influence and acquiring territories to revive the Soviet Union's former greatness. To put it simply, if Lukashenko were no longer in power, Putin could encounter resistance in Belarus, similar to what has been seen in Ukraine, making an invasion or annexation challenging. A March 2023 poll conducted by Chatham House revealed that only 3% of Belarusians supported joining the Ukraine conflict on Russia's side. This indicates a lack of favorable sentiment towards Putin among the majority of Belarusians. In August 2020, Putin played a pivotal role in ensuring Lukashenko's continued rule. During the presidential election, widely criticized as fraudulent, Lukashenko secured his sixth consecutive term. The contested election sparked months of unprecedented protests in Belarus. The government responded with a violent crackdown, arresting over 35,000 people, subjecting thousands to beatings and detention. Dozens of media outlets were shuttered, and numerous activists fled the country. Consequently, Lukashenko's government faced severe sanctions and lost recognition from the United States and the European Union. This background underscores the potential resistance Putin might face in Belarus without Lukashenko's firm grip on power. The scale of the protests in 2020 was so immense that, for the first time in nearly 3 decades, the Belarusian government teetered on the brink of collapse. The unrest prompted a massive withdrawal of savings from banks by Belarusians, seeking to convert their funds into dollars and euros. This left the central bank's reserves at precarious levels. Facing hundreds of thousands of protesters and a critical banking system, Lukashenko was on the verge of falling from power. It was at this crucial moment that Vladimir Putin intervened, providing a lifeline with a $1.5 billion loan and a commitment of military assistance to thwart any potential coup against Lukashenko. As a result of Putin's support, the Belarusian dictator retained his grip on power. However, in exchange for this aid, Lukashenko had to acquiesce to numerous demands, including permitting the permanent deployment of Russian military forces in the country. Lukashenko's survival in 2020 also involved signing agreements on 28 integration projects with Russia, spanning economic, political, and military domains. Within this context, a leaked 17-page document unveiled Russia's detailed plan for the complete annexation of Belarus, unfolding in 3 distinct stages. Firstly, the plan involves censoring Belarusian identity and restricting Western influence. This step aims to diminish the distinct Belarusian cultural and political landscape. The subsequent phase entails the establishment of a common currency and the widespread distribution of Russian passports within Belarus. This move not only integrates economic systems, but also lays the groundwork for a closer political alignment. The final stage is characterized by the creation of a universal culture where Belarusians adopt the Russian language and education system. The overarching objective is to forge a union state with Russia by 2030, ultimately merging the 2 nations into a single state under Moscow's control. This comprehensive plan underscores Putin's strategic vision for the full annexation of Belarus and a consolidation of influence over the region. Despite the revelation of the detailed strategy document in early 2023, it's important to note that efforts to annex Belarus were already in motion. The tactic of distributing Russian passports in foreign territories is a familiar strategy, often used to rationalize military interventions by claiming the need to protect Russian populations in those areas. This approach was evident in Russia's justification for the invasion of Ukraine, where it alleged that the Russian population in 2 separatist regions of eastern Ukraine was under threat. Similar tactics were employed in Georgia. However, it's crucial to recognize that passport distribution is just one facet of a broader strategy employed by Russia to advance its geopolitical interests and expand influence in neighboring countries. The unfolding of the actual plan became evident when Lukashenko, facing protests over the contested presidential elections in 2020, opted to exchange the country's sovereignty for Putin's assistance. Before this critical juncture, relations between Russia and Belarus were strained. Lukashenko had not acknowledged the Russian annexation of Crimea, and as recently as 2017, he declared that Belarus would not permit other nations to utilize its territory for military intervention in Ukraine. This shift in stance marked a significant turning point, where Lukashenko's need for support prompted a realignment in Belarus's geopolitical position. The dynamics between Putin and Lukashenko underwent a significant shift during the 2020 protests when Putin emerged as Lukashenko's crucial support. In return, Belarus, aligning with Putin, backed Russia in the invasion of Ukraine. However, this alignment came at a cost, as both Russia and Belarus faced severe international sanctions in response. Unlike Russia, Belarus lacks extensive reserves of natural resources, making it more vulnerable to the economic impact of sanctions. Belarus heavily relies on Russia for economic sustenance, with a substantial portion of its income derived from the sale of Russian-supplied oil, often priced below market rates. Furthermore, Over half of Belarus's energy consumption is sourced from Russia, and more than 60% of its exports are directed to the Russian market. This deep economic interdependence leaves Belarus in a considerably isolated position, heightening its dependency on Russia for crucial economic resources. In summary, due to international sanctions, Belarus has become so isolated and dependent on Russia that its status as an independent country is now in question. This sets the stage for a potential merger between the two nations in the coming years. Interestingly, the idea of such a merger is not new. It was initially proposed in the 1990s through a treaty aimed at political, economic, and cultural integration. Even Lukashenko, at that time, envisioned leading this unified state. Integration efforts progressed well between 1996 and 1999, but the arrival of Vladimir Putin and his geopolitical ambitions disrupted Lukashenko's plans. Consequently, the idea of uniting Russia and Belarus was put on hold for 2 decades. However, the current scenario, with Belarus increasingly reliant on Russia, presents an opportune moment to realize Putin's vision of a partial reconstruction of the former Soviet Union under Moscow's leadership. This long-standing concept, frozen for years, seems to be gaining traction again. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.